Hi, I'm Taylor Pankratz with Holistic Planning, and today we're going to talk about what do I do if I inherit money? Well, you're going to find out. Stick around. Okay, so you've inherited some money, and maybe it's $50,000, maybe it's 500,000, maybe it's 5 million. And you're just sitting there wondering, what happens now? What do I do? How do I process what's going on? And the most important thing to think about, well, we've got four important things to think about, and those would be taxes, debt, investments, and protecting the money, right? So we look at four things when we have clients that inherit the money. We look at four topics or four things that come to mind, which would be taxes, debt, protect, and invest. So a lot of clients think when they inherit money from their parents or their uncle or whatever it might be, that comes with all this tax consequence, and that they're going to have to owe all this money to the IRS. And if you know us, you know that we don't like tipping the IRS. So we oftentimes can give people the great news of, hey, this comes with no tax consequences, or there was a step up in basis when your mom or your dad or your uncle passed away, and so you're getting these things with the basis stepped up to the value at the date of their passing. And sometimes that's real estate or a house or an investment account or whatever it might be. And there's certainly times where that doesn't happen, which would be, I couldn't even list all the times it doesn't happen. It can happen quite often if it's in an irrevocable trust or a retirement account or something like that is normal. But more often than not, you will get a step up in basis if it's just in a regular account, or if it was in a living trust occasionally, or I'd say most of the time that happens. And so what's nice about that is clients, you can kind of see this look of dread start to kind of go down, and they go, okay, wait, so I don't owe Uncle Sam 40% of this, because they Google it and they look at it and say, oh, the estate tax is 40%, which means I'm going to owe 40% tax on all this money. And the reality is that the estate tax applies to people that are very, very wealthy. You have to have a tremendous amount of money to be kind of affected by the estate tax. And so for most Americans, you're going to inherit money, and the estate tax is not going to be an issue. And so the things to think about right off the bat is talk to somebody and get an understanding of what's the tax consequences of this, if any, like I just went through, right? There, it could be tax, it might not be. And so it's important to understand what the tax implications of the money is. And then what we see a lot is clients will inherit a retirement account from a loved one. And there's certain rules around inheriting retirement accounts and how long you have to take the money out, and it's going to be taxed when it comes out at that time. And so there's too many nuanced rules to kind of try to do a YouTube video that's gonna be very blanket statements like this. But one thing I do know is that you should talk to somebody, your financial advisor, a CPA, somebody that would understand the implications of where you're inheriting this money and what the tax consequences could be. And then once you understand that, the next thing to be thinking of is, okay, I've got this money. Now, what do I do with it? Okay, so sometimes you're receiving this money in a trust, and you can keep that money in a trust. Sometimes you have to keep that money in a trust, and other times you just get it all to yourself, right? In just an account in your name, and it's not protected by a trust. And There's different things to think about. If you receive the money in a trust, you should be thinking, okay, do I want to leave it in the trust, right? And sometimes it makes sense to do that. That protects the money from maybe creditors, or keeps the money nice and separate, your inheritance money nice and separate, kind of like separate property from your marriage and communal property, et cetera, like that. So sometimes it does make sense to kind of leave the money exactly how it's given to you, leave it there just like that, and that keeps it separate. And other times it makes sense to receive that money, and now you would think of that as, okay, that's joint money with me and maybe my spouse. And now, it's now communal property at that point, right? Think about it like this. If you receive $100,000 from your mom, and you put that $100,000 in your joint bank account with somebody else, that is going to be a problem should anything ever happen, right? Should you want to say, well, where's that $100,000 at now that we're splitting up this joint account? You're not going to kind of carve that back out, right? That's communal property at this point, and the $100,000 is going to be split in half, and you're only going to get 50 of it back should something happen to that relationship and whatnot. And so I always encourage people to think about, they get this money, do you have intentions of keeping it separate and separate property? And if so, you need to be smart about making sure that that money stays separate, and not putting any dollars into that account from a joint account or from marital money put into that account, and vice versa. The money should never go out of that account and into a communal property account if the intention of the money is to keep it separate. And so that's normally just a conversation you have with your spouse, or just however you want to deal with the money. But that would be protecting the money from future divorces and whatnot, and just making sure the money flows down your bloodline. If that's the point of the money, if that's what you want it to do, if that's what your parents or your uncle or whatnot that gave you the inheritance, if that was their desire, was for this money to pass down the bloodline, then you should try to think about, does it make sense to honor that request, or the purpose behind that, and try to keep the money separate from all your other money that you have. So we see a lot of times where we don't have a ton of clients with credit card debt, but a lot of people have mortgages, and they'll say, should I pay off this mortgage? Well, a lot of people got mortgages back in 2020 with interest rates of 2.75% or 3.5%, and you're kind of going, I don't know if I'm paying that off. That's a pretty low interest rate when I think I can make more than that on this money. But if my mortgage was 7.5, it starts to become a conversation of, well, I'm going to have to take some risk with this money to invest it and try to make 8, 9, 10%. So do I want to just pay off this mortgage at 7? So I do think that it starts to make sense to pay off mortgages as those interest rates on the mortgages are higher. But certainly if you've got a low mortgage interest rate, it probably makes sense to not. But again, talk to your financial advisor, talk to somebody that kind of can help walk you through this thought process. But that's a very simple way to think of it, and I hope that helps. You just think, can the money make more than the interest rates costing me? And if the money would have to be invested in a very risky thing to try to go make 20 or 25% to compete with the credit card debt, then pay the credit card debt off. The last thing would be just investing it, just generically speaking. So a lot of people, they have this, there's two different schools of thought. So there's this is inherited money. I want to be a good steward of this money and pass it on to my kiddos. And so this kind of family money continues to pass down the bloodline, and I'm not spending this money, right? I'm being a good steward of it, and I'm saving it, and I want to, continue that legacy. And if that's most people, I think, and so if that's the case, then you certainly want to invest it in a way that is going, hey, this is long-term money, right? This isn't money that I'm needing 6 months from now or a year from now to pay my bills. This is longer term money because it's legacy money. So I can invest it in a way that's appropriate for that timeline. And maybe a portion of that is set aside as, again, to pay off debt or to pay bills or to do something that you just always wanted to do, go on a trip or put the pool in the backyard. All those things are great. But certainly there's a portion of the money that you might think of as legacy money. And so think of it as, how can I invest this money in a way that is doing what I kind of want to do with the money now, but generationally good for the money, which would be thinking more longer term, probably more stock market exposure with the money, something like that. So anytime people come into money, it's always a conversation of those four things: taxes, protect it, do I pay down debt, and how do I invest it, right? And so if you're watching this and you've come into some money, or you think you might, or everybody's probably thinking about, I probably will inherit some money someday. Those are the things to consider. If you're going to get a house, odds are that's going to get a step up in basis, and you're not going to have to pay capital gains on the value of that house from when your parents bought it. You're going to have to pay any gains from if and when you and your siblings sell it, from when your mom or dad passed away, which will be a smaller amount, if any. And so houses work like that. Real estate works like that. Investment accounts that aren't retirement accounts work like that, where your mom and dad might have bought Exxon stock 30 years ago and it's done really well. Well, from the date of let's say it's your mom, the date of her passing, the Exxon stock will get stepped up to as if she bought it the day she passed away. And then if you were to sell it, you're going to pay capital gains on the value increase, if there is any, from when you sell it to when she passed away, which will be a much smaller number probably than the gain that it came from when she bought it 30 some odd years ago. So it's important to kind of, if you're thinking about selling those things and selling stocks and all that, it's important to try to get the estate processed relatively quickly so you can mitigate any of those taxes if you were to want to get out of the investment holdings, if you wanted to convert the money to cash, etc. And so, trying to get the estate processed quickly and all of that is important. And then, again, protect it. That's always a conversation of, how do I balance the wishes of the person that gave me the money, right? Do they want to keep it in a trust? Do they want to make sure that the kiddos get it? And how can I be a good steward of it and protect it so that should something happen with my marriage or whatever, my kid's marriage, that the money flows down the proverbial bloodline, if you will, if that's the desire of the money. And so those are things that we can help you with. If any of that is resonating with you, if you're inheriting money and you're struggling with some of these things, or want to talk to somebody about any of those four things to try to wrap your mind around what the implication is for you specifically, feel free to reach out to us, holisticplanning.com. You can call us. You can Google us and find our phone number. You can go to our website and schedule a call. We'd love to chat with you and help. We truly do have a passion to help people understand financial planning better and just bring people clarity and confidence around their own financial situation. So if that's you, please reach out. We love to help in any way we can. I hope you have a great day. God bless.